Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 13 of The Stare Down. You've heard me talk about it for the last few weeks, but today we have an extremely special guest. I am so excited for this guest. Finally, people will hear who it is, and I think it's an incredibly important topic that we're going to talk about. So, as always, you know what time it is. Sit back, relax, grab a drink or two, and let's get into the stare down. All right, welcome back to the Stare Down, everyone. If you've been listening over the last few weeks, you know I have been teasing a very special guest, and he's now here. So if you're an Ole Miss fan, hopefully you recognize this face. This is Kadarian Hill, or KD as we all know him, and the 2022 Chucky Mullins Award winner. KD, how's it going?
Everything is going well. How about you?
Oh, doing great, man. Just ready to kind of get the rest of this week going so we can go to play some other Bulldogs between the hedges this weekend. Got a lot of cheering to do.
Right.
Awesome. So, Katie, you know, you and I have talked a little bit, and one of the things that I love about you and your story is that, just like myself, you are a rebel from Bama. So, tell us a little bit about how you ended up at Ole Miss from Eufaula.
So Coach Freeze had offered me a scholarship over the phone, and he wanted me to take an unofficial visit to come visit Oxford. And I came down. It was that summer of my junior year, and we went. And one of the first things that I remember was sitting in the team meeting room and watching the Chucky Mullins documentary. And at that moment, I just felt like it was home. Something just moved upon me and was basically telling me to commit right then, but I didn't want to do it so fast. And Coach Freeze told me before I left, he said that I was going to commit at Ole Miss, and I went and got down the road, and we got to Jasper, and I just told my mom and my family, I was like, I got to commit. It just felt like home there, and I thank God for letting me be able to go to the University of Mississippi, and it always felt like home, and it still does feel like home. And God makes no mistakes. It was truly a blessing to be able to wear number 38 as well.
Hey, that's awesome. You know, I always think about Sinquez Golson's quote about, you know, if you don't want to go to Ole Miss, then don't go visit. And I feel like you probably understand that just as well as he does.
Yes, wow.
Awesome. So you get to Ole Miss, and I believe your freshman year, we actually had a new coaching staff at that point. So, you know, we see a lot of things these days in college football and actually just in college sports in general of, you know, people transferring in the transfer portal, using NIL, that kind of stuff. You know, what made you, besides the fact that you did feel like you were at home, like, was there something that was really driving the fact that you wanted to stay committed to the university over anything else?
One thing my mom installed into me was be a man of your words, and I was committed to Ole Miss my junior year that summer, heading into my senior year. And Coach Freeze, they had fired Coach Freeze heading into my senior year, and I stayed committed because I'm a man of my words. And my mom always told me don't commit to the coaches, but commit to the university. And Ole Miss was in my heart, and it just felt like home.
No, that's amazing. And I know that's hard too, I'm sure, because I believe where you're from, it's close to Auburn, and Auburn has a very beautiful campus. So I'm sure it was a little difficult to leave actual home, but hey, I personally am really glad you did. So, you know, what was that like, you know, your first couple of years, especially kind of after everything does happen, you know, you have Matt Luke, who's probably one of the best rebels there ever was. And I still feel like he could probably play a little bit if we ever really needed him to. But
You
you know
can
what did that kind of feel like? How did the Oxford community kind of take you in?
I'm from a small town. Eufaula isn't that big. 5A high school, so I'm sort of used to being in a small city, country, like being out to myself, and just the friends I met there in Lucky Day. We talk to this day, and they just welcome me in, and we have a strong relationship. And the good friends I met on the team, we still communicate to this day, and it's a brotherhood that will last forever. And the people that is in Oxford as well. The cafeteria, the people in the cafeteria, I built relationships with them as well, and called them family, and it was just it was amazing, and I truly enjoyed all my years there at Ole Miss.
Hey, that's awesome to hear. And I know another family that you are a part of is that Chucky Mullins kind of brotherhood family. I know Chucky's family, Miss Karen and Mr. Carver, they're still around. And then a lot of his old teammates, they just came back a few weeks ago, I believe for the Arkansas game. Creek Mitchell was there. He was the first winner of the Chucky Mullins Award. But, what is that family like? Because not only do you have your Ole Miss family and your teammates, but then you become part of a very special fraternity within Ole Miss by being a Chucky Mullins Award winner.
So I feel like we all share something in common. If we want something, we're going to go get it, and we're going to put in the work, and it's not going to be handed to us. And it's just a brotherhood, and if it really feels like family. And I'm forever grateful to wear 38 and to be able to represent that number. And I felt like I represented it well.
Yeah, no, I 100% as a fan, you absolutely represented it so well. And I know your mom was very proud of you. We all saw the call where you were trying to not cry. But I mean, you said it like when you took your visit there, you knew that was something you wanted to strive for. And one of the things too that, I've kind of noticed over the last few years is that this new coaching staff, Lane Kiffin staff, they're doing a very different thing. Normally, the number is awarded after spring drills, but it seems like the last couple of years they've waited until after fall camp is over, so heading kind of right into the start of the season. Do you think that just really drove home that point of you're getting to wear it, and not only have you gone through spring and fall camp and you've emerged as that leader, but they see that you've maybe faced some adversity. Did that kind of have that feeling with it, just a little bit of extra, man, I've really worked hard, but now I can't stop now.
To wear 38 is a privilege. You have to put the work in, and it's not just you being a football player, but who are you outside of the football field, or what are you doing in the community? I think it's more than what you do off the field that matters. So as a person, you have to have that leadership skill to be able to talk to people and encourage them and motivate them through any circumstances as well. But on wearing 38, I love the idea that you get it at the end of fall count because it makes you work harder, and it's something that you have to be about. It's something that it's not bought, it's already in you, and you just have to love the grind.
Hey, I love that. I think one of my favorite things, and it's on the statue that everybody touches when they run out of that tunnel, the never quit. And I think, especially for you, I talked about this in one of my early episodes, one of the very first episodes I did. You had just had an accident. So I think that never quits probably, it means a little bit something to you now in a different kind of way. But if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about kind of what did happen with your accident and kind of where that's led you to where you are now.
Well, my right leg was amputated below the knee on the scene. I was trapped in the truck almost 5 hours. I was up the entire time, and I just continued to fight through and persevere. And I knew that God had his angels wrapped around me, and he didn't bring me this far to leave me. And I got a video when I was in the hospital. I would document videos while I was in the hospital. And one video I said, I got the heart of a lion. I said, it's in me, and it's bigger than me. And till this day it's still bigger than me because I don't do it for myself. I do it for my son. I do it for my family and my mom. But most of all, I do it to glorify God because he's the one that's given me the strength through all this adversity I've came through. And through adversity, I found my destiny in life.
Man, I love that whole message. And, I think one of the things about being a rebel, you're going to go do the thing that feels a little impossible. You're going to kind of rebel against the norm, but it's not because you're trying to, be a baddie or anything, but because you know that there is something inside of you that it's waiting to come out. And I love the video that you just did. I think it's probably the same video where Ray Lewis is talking about why is the lion the king of the jungle? And it's, the elephant's technically the largest, the cheetah's the fastest, but what do they not have? And that's the heart. And I think you absolutely got that. So if that's the same video, yeah, it gives me chills every time I see it.
Yes,
I love it. So well, you were working in pro football, kind of that after college type stuff. You have this accident. You know, I know you've stated that, you understand that God has the purpose for your life and that's what you're going to do. How did you work through, kind of those intrusive thoughts of like, but man, I had all of this potential physically, how do you kind of shift that from the physical strength to that mental strength? Do you think football kind of helped with that?
this is something that was already. This was already already had me prepared before my accident happened. I've been working on this my whole life as the mental aspect. My mom taking me to church, reading me scriptures, praying every single day. All that did was increase my faith. I have a story that I would never forget with my grandfather when I was 10 years old. And my grandfather died from pancreatic cancer in 2010. And we went fishing one day and we wasn't catching any fish. And I said, Grandfather, you have to have faith the size of a mustard seed. And after I said that, we caught over 10 bass back to back. And in that time of my life, it really opened my eyes with having the faith the size of a mustard seed. And I truly built a personal relationship with God while I was in college with FCA. And it's nothing better than having a personal relationship with Him because He began to show you things. And with Him, you are everything. But without Him, you are nothing. And so that's why I give him all the credit and everything that I do, because I know if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to get through what I've gone through, because with him on my side, I don't look like what I've been through.
And yeah, it's like that faith of a mustard seed, it's just that never quit. Like, I feel like with you and just a couple of conversations we've had, even if it wasn't football that put you on this stage for people to know your name, I feel like there's just something about you that like people were going to know your name and you were going to always show the world like this is KD Hill. And KD Hill is not just a football player. KD Hill is not just a dad. KD Hill is not just a dog dad either. KD is more than that. And that plan's been laid there. So yeah, I've loved hearing every time we talk, I learned something new, I feel like, but I love that story about you and your grandfather. I know that was really special for you.
As well.
So I know when you were in Oxford, NIL, obviously last year was kind of the first really big year that we saw it. And one of the things that I remember seeing you do was some of your NIL money was putting it back into the community. And so you started a Thanksgiving dinner. And if I'm correct, and part of the reason why you're on is because you're not stopping. Just because you're not at Ole Miss anymore, that doesn't mean it's stopping, right?
That's right. Like I said in the beginning, one thing my mom taught me growing up was be a man of your words. And that was one thing I told the people at Oxford Housing Authority. This isn't just going to be one time thing. I want to continue to make an impact on the kids' life and watch them grow up to be successful business leaders, doctors, and lawyers one day in life, and maybe one day be a preacher. But most of all, I wanted to continue to impact them and stay in touch with them and let those families know that no matter how far away I am, I'm just a call away and I'll always be there for you.
Yeah. And I think you were saying too, like, even when you were in Oxford, you did some work with like the Boys and Girls Club. And so you'd always take them pizza. I'm sure they love that. Like, if nothing else, I'll always remember KD who brought them pizza.
Yes, well.
That's awesome. So you're having your second annual Chucky Mullins Thanksgiving dinner for the Oxford Housing Authority. It's going to be Monday, November 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. And it's going to be at the Oxford Activity Center, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And so I know, obviously financially donations always help. So I know you've got a Venmo and a Cash App, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So Venmo, I think it's Walking Miracle LLC, and Cash App, it's the $ Walking Miracle LLC. So if it's good with you, man, we'll put all this out on social media. I'll link it in the blog. We'll make sure that everybody has the opportunity. So if they can't come and volunteer in person and they still want to give, like they absolutely have that ability to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. No, we look, I appreciate you coming on here and talking with us. Like it's not every day you have a Chucky Mullins award winner who wants to come talk to you. So I kind of love it.
Yes, ma'am. It's truly an honor to be able to get on here on your podcast and be able to talk with you about these things. So it's very humbling, and thank you.
No, thank you. So, a couple of things I want to end on a fun note. The first thing, and I ask all my guests this: if you had a walkout song, what would it be?
CC Winans.
Okay, any particular one or just anything?
My favorite one. I put it on my intro video today, actually, and it is "Never Lost" by CC Winans.
Okay, never lost. All right, well, so I will link that as well because every now and then I'm sure we all just need a little moment to realize we're not lost. So in case anybody needs that, we'll link that as well. Um, what my second question for you to kind of wrap up, uh, out of all of the games that you played in Oxford, on the road, whatever, what was your favorite? And do you have any funny stories that you can actually share to the public? We don't want to tell any dirty secrets or any locker room secrets. Like you got to keep that brotherhood intact.
My favorite one was my senior night when I got the sack versus Will Rogers,
Yes.
and I pointed up to the sky. And a lot of people don't know this, but I cried when I walked to the sideline because that was my first college career sack ever. And I prayed to God before that game that I would get a sack my last game, and it came to pass. And I was just so emotional, and I just gave all the credit to him. And so you'll see a picture I have on social media with me pointing to the sky, and that was me just giving praise to God and thanking Him for everything and all the success I had through college.
So I was at the game, and now I'm crying. And I remember that play, and I remember looking down at my phone, and I was like, "Surely that's not his first collegiate sack," but it was, and it was for 14 yards, a loss of 14 yards. Um, yeah, what a game! And that, I think we all coming out of that game, whether you're an Ole Miss fan or a Mississippi State fan, yeah, obviously we wish we had won as Ole Miss fans, but knowing that that was the Pirates' last game to coach, that was hard. So I know that was really special for you, and especially it being your senior night. I think remember seeing your mom. Um, any other family members that were there with you, or
My
just your
both of
mom?
my grandparents, my grandfather, and my little cousin, my older cousin, and then my little brother as well.
Man, I love that. So, I think, one of the things that I really try to talk about on this podcast is that, I think sometimes it's so easy for people who watch games and just see you guys as athletes, but you're more than that. Like you have thoughts and feelings and lives and families and all of these things that we have. And so I love the fact that one of the things that I feel like you consistently have, and it's just part of you, is your family and your relationship with your mom. And now, wanting to be a great dad for your son, which I have no doubt that you will be. And I can't wait to see him hopefully wear a number 38 for the red and blue one day.
That's
But,
right.
I think I think that's one of the things, that I really do love about Ole Miss, and we've sort of talked about this, is that it is a family. It doesn't matter, where you come from. If you come from the state of Alabama and you're seen as a traitor back home, no, that doesn't matter because Oxford is a family, Ole Miss is a family, and man, Katie, I'm so glad you're part of that family. So, uh, any last words for our listeners? I'm just excited to finally hopefully get to meet you. I plan on being there for the Thanksgiving dinner and helping serve and meeting you. One of the things that I know that I've seen is you're still working out. Like you're still ripped. You could still probably bench a lot of weight. We'll go with that. So don't crush me if you see me. I'd be
Yes,
nice,
man.
but I feel like it'll be a good hug. So.
Yes, man.
All right. Well, anything else you want to leave everybody with before we tell them good night for now, and then we'll follow up after the dinner and let them know how it all went.
In order to get the things you want in life, you have to go through adversity, but you have to continue to persevere because either you're going through a storm, you done been through a storm, or you're about to go out of a storm. But one thing you can learn through all those is you have to embrace it because that is where you grow.
Man, I love it. Like, yeah, you grow. And if you don't grow, then what's the point, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, KD, thank you so much for joining us. I have a little portable microphone, so if you see me walking around on the 20th, just say hey to all of our listeners at that point. But I know this probably isn't the last we're going to see of you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And for all of you out there listening or watching, we'll be right back after this short break. Thank you so much to KD Hill for joining me. I hope you guys realize like what an incredible person he is and all of the stuff that he's been through. You know, you go from achieving the thing that you set your mind out to achieve your before your freshman year, even like while you're still in high school, and you work and you become a fifth year senior in college and you go and you get the Chucky Mullins Award. You know, that's huge. And then you'll see on the blog, we didn't really talk a whole lot about it, but on the blog post, I do kind of go into the fact that he was an undrafted free agent and the Jets invited him to training camp. And then he actually ended up getting drafted by the XFL Guardians in their rookie draft back, I believe, at the end of June of 2023. So obviously just a few months ago. And then to have like all of that happen and then for the accident to happen, and you heard him say it like he didn't even cry. Like he knew he was going to be okay. And that is such an incredible testament to his faith. And, you know, no matter what you believe, obviously he has a very strong faith in his Christianity, but, you know, just to have faith in anything to that extent, that's so unusual. And so, you know, for him to just be able to go through all of that and still do it with a smile on his face, no tears, you know, I question why a lot. You know, why me? Why am I the one that got to live after chemo and my friends didn't? You know, why was I even diagnosed to begin with? You start going through those things. So I think it's just such a testament to what an incredible person he is. I think we all see now exactly why Coach Kiffin and that staff awarded him the Chucky Mullins Award last year. And I think too, you know, what he's doing in the Oxford community, it just shows that he gets it and he truly understands. And, you know, he preaches his thoughts and his faith. And I kind of feel the same way in that, you know, preaching about how these athletes are human beings and they have these thoughts and feelings and families and trials and tribulations they've gone through. And yet we still expect them to perform every week and do it with a smile on their face. And, you know, not saying that not doing it with a smile on your face is wrong, but, you know, then you look at something like that and us humans, we always compare like, man, he's had it so rough, but in his mind, like, no, that's just his life and he's going to keep going. So KD, thank you so much again. Like I said, I can't wait to see you. Right now, the goal is for me to be there and to help serve and volunteer at the Thanksgiving dinner on the 20th. So you can absolutely go to the blog post, go to any of our social media, and also you can find, you know, his Venmo and the Cash App handles for this. So it'll go to his LLC to help pay for both the Thanksgiving dinner and then also any toy drives that he does for kids. So if you feel compelled to donate, absolutely. All right. So it's been kind of a crazy week. There's been a whole lot of hype with college football, and this time change is still wearing me out. But I do want to talk about a couple of things. And I think it goes along with the theme of the heart of a lion. Caleb Williams, after the loss last weekend, went in the stands, hugged his mom, and then just immediately began sobbing. And after the game, he said, you know, he wanted to just go home and cuddle his dog. And there have been a lot of split opinions. Some people are like, good for him. He's not afraid to cry. He's not afraid to show it. And then there have been some that are like, man, he's really soft. And I think I'm in the camp of good for him. He's showing his emotions and he's showing what he's going through. I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't think he's soft. I think, again, he's a human being with thoughts and feelings and families. And look, we've all been there. Sometimes you just need your mama, right? Like sometimes mama's hugs can just make it better. And when you see them and you just break down, like it just happens. So, you know, I do really appreciate and really respect him for doing that instead of just being like, oh, I'm tough, or, you know, giving some answer about like, oh, no, it doesn't bother me. Like, no, it does. And so mental health is a huge thing. One of the things that even came out today is the whole thing at Ole Miss. I'm actually not going to comment on it, but there is a lawsuit currently happening. It has to deal with a former player's mental health and some allegations that they have made. Again, I'm not going to state my opinion on it. I'm going to let it be handled in the courts with the lawyers, all of those things. But even before all of that, you saw Lane Kiffin and his staff be the first college football staff in America to be trained specifically in mental health. And I know that even all the other staff, athletic staff at Ole Miss, have had to go through training as well, including the Athletics Foundation staff. So, it's being understood that it is an important thing that we need to deal with, and that, again, these are children still. These athletes are children. And let's be completely honest, the coaches and the support staff are also human beings, and life happens, guys. Like, life happens. So I'm interested to see kind of how this does continue to play out, what kind of emphasis is put on mental health. Can we change the narrative a little bit? And so it's not, oh, well, he's soft. Well, I mean, my husband cuddles with our dogs after a bad day. Does that make him soft? Like, no, he just has a different way of showing his feelings than maybe somebody else on Twitter. So, hey, maybe all you Twitter warriors, like, or ex warriors, I'm sorry, I still can't call it X, guys. It's still Twitter. All you keyboard warriors, how about that? Like, keep that in mind, that maybe the way you release your emotions and the way you talk about things and handle things isn't the way that somebody else would. So be a little gracious. Pass along a little grace the same way you would want some grace passed on to you. Obviously, a couple of other big stories this week that I feel like we've all just been beat over the head with, and I'm really kind of tired of hearing about them, but I do want to touch on them because I feel like we did talk about them early on. Obviously, the Michigan sign stealing scandal. I don't know what's about to happen. I know it's about to get ugly because the Big Ten is going to push down some penalties. Michigan's going to think they're insane. I don't think the Big Ten is going to push down penalties on the players. I think that's been proven that, like, they didn't have anything to do with it. And so it's going to be the coaches. And so I think the only parallel I really know to draw it to is when you go back and you do look at some of the NCAA cases that Megan and I talked about in the early episodes. Hugh Freeze, when he was at Ole Miss, he was held accountable for stuff that his support staff did, and he got a show cause for that. And so how can you now say that Jim Harbaugh's like, oh, I wasn't aware of what my assistants were doing? Well, Hugh Freeze said the same thing. Like, I wasn't aware that was happening, but they still punished him. Why? Because he is the head of that organization, the same way Jim Harbaugh is the head of that organization. So, I actually don't think the NCAA is speaking out of both sides of their mouth now. Now, if they don't punish Jim Harbaugh, then absolutely they will be. But I think that, Michigan's just got to be ready for their coaching staff to have some kind of punishment. And plus, too, I don't really buy the argument that, oh, he was some low-level assistant, nobody knew who he was. BS. He was standing there, and you could see him in film clearly whispering into the coordinator's ears, the ones who were calling him plays. Like, come on. Like, he knew what he was doing. They knew he had some kind of weird intelligence. Sometimes not asking questions when it raises something in your stomach, that's just as bad. Ignoring it and not trying to figure out what's actually going on is just as bad as knowing it and trying to cover it up. So, yeah, sorry, Michigan. I think you're just going to have to pay the punishment on this one. Obviously, there's a really big game that my Rebels are going to play in this weekend. I have no words. I'm going. I'm very excited to go. I'm obviously always excited to go. It doesn't matter where I get to go. I just want to go see my Rebels play, right? But it's going to be big. I can't wait. We're going to just have a blast no matter what. And I want to enjoy it and hope everybody stays healthy and safe. And that's really all anybody can ask for, right? So enough about college football at this point. Let's skip over a little bit to baseball. Hooray, Major League Baseball is finally done. That was quite possibly one of the most boring World Series ever. I think even the ratings showed it. In fact, I saw a stat this week that there were more people who watched the NCAA women's basketball finals between Iowa and LSU than watched the World Series on average. So I love that because obviously, like, more people are starting to realize that women's sports are a ton of fun. But, I think too, there's a lot to be said about some of the changes that have taken place in baseball, and maybe they're not as good for baseball as they thought they were going to be. So we'll see what happens next year. That is the beautiful thing about baseball. Whoever gets hot. Tim Elko knows it best. Whoever gets hot. Finally, one of the things that I do want to talk about and wrap up in my Don't Flinch is to all of my Ole Miss fans out here, and actually to any fans of any school that has a women's rifle team. Cody and I went and got to meet the team last week and hang out with them and see their facilities and talk to the coaches a little bit. Those girls are so good. And y'all, I don't know anything about rifle, but what little I'm learning, they're insanely talented. I mean, we're talking girls that they have to be so still. Like, you think about it, like you're shooting at a target, right? And they have to try and hit a bullseye. And it's so crazy the way things score. Like I said, I know very, very little about it, but I think my whole thing of Don't Flinch this week is like, don't flinch and don't sleep on some of these teams in college that, your school may have. Go to a gymnastics meet if you get the chance. Cody and I, it may be as fun as watching paint dry. I don't know, but I still want to go watch rifle. I still want to go support them because they are out here putting in the work and being college athletes. And I'm sure it's hard for them to feel like they're part of the community. And being part of the athletics community at Ole Miss or whatever school, it's very different, right? It's not a sport we always talk about. So, I just encourage you to go to volleyball games, go support, your golf team, go support these student athletes because they are all putting in extra work on top of studying and going to class. So I just don't flinch, don't sleep on these people. Just don't do it. You'll miss a lot of good things along the way if you do. So on that note, I can't wait for this weekend. I'm really excited. I think next week we'll pick back up with a little bit more of a regularly scheduled kind of NFL college football recap type thing. But, I felt like KD deserved so much of the attention and time this week. And I don't want to take away from that because, like I said, what he is doing is phenomenal. And the fact that he's not even in school anymore, but he still wants to give back to that family. I can't say enough about how important that is and how impressive that is. So as always, you can always go to thealabamatake.com, read the blog post that goes along with this episode. You can find the links there you can actually listen to the episode there, but you'll also, in KD's case, you'll also be able to find his Venmo and Cash App info. You'll get to see his walkout song. I went ahead and linked that. You'll also get to see the moment that I talked about a little bit with his mom when he got to call her and tell her he was being named the Chucky Mullins Award winner. So thealabamatake.com, go read the blog post. You can also find us on Instagram at @thestaredown_podcast. You can find us on Facebook just by typing in The Stare Down. Stare Down is one word. You can find us on Twitter at The Stare Down Pod. Send us an email, thestaredownpod@gmail.com. And as always, just come say hi. Come leave messages. Leave a 5-star review. Wherever you listen to your podcast, leave me a 5-star review. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with anybody. I don't care. Coworkers. Just let's change this narrative, right? That's why I started out with this, was to tell stories like KD's and to tell stories like the rifle team and to support these people who are doing things. And so share it. Without it, we're never going to be able to change the narrative. So just share it with whomever. And on that note, you know what time it is. It's time to sit back, relax, grab a drink or two, and listen to The Stare Down. Hotty toddy, y'all. Let's go beat those dogs. Have a good weekend. Bye.